everyone, and welcome to the Cleveland Leadership Center's Way Forward Workshop, Leader Lunch Breaks. For those of you who are curious, Rachel will be continuing the Thriller Dance Party at 12:30 following Craig's comments. Let's hear from Craig. Craig Dorn spent his career of 33 years dedicated to employing and empowering youth and young adults at Youth Opportunities Unlimited. He began his career as a career coach at James Ford Rhodes High School and moved up the ranks in operations, programs, and strategic planning until he was promoted to president and CEO of the $14 million organization in 2018. Throughout these years, he's been recognized for his unwavering passion for and commitment to inner city youth. He knows who he serves. He credits his mother with encouraging him to pursue an education as his ticket out of poverty. He was a first-generation college student at the Bowling Green State University, where his senior project focused on systemic racism, and it was that effort that inspired him to dedicate his career to eradicating racism and poverty. Several years ago, when Cranes asked him, "What keeps you interested in this work?" Craig responded, "Every day is different. Every challenge can be overcome, and keeping an eye on the prize, youth on a path to economic self-sufficiency. I am doing my part in my beloved hometown to get there." He returned to that Cranes platform recently when he issued a bold and obvious call for us to generate a workforce pipeline to address the staggering youth unemployment and to fuel our region's economic growth. In addition to the hours and hours he invests at Y.O.U, he gives back through United Way, Adoption Network Cleveland, the Literacy Cooperative, the Tri-C Board of Visitors, to name a few. And of course, he is a proud alum of Leadership Cleveland 2022. Welcome, Craig.
Thank you very much, Marianne. That's always humbling to listen to your life. It's great to be here, really happy to see everyone. And we're going to share a simple solution to a very complicated problem. Most of this is going to be about hope and solution-oriented, but just want to recap some of the litany of pretty depressing statistics we all have come to be familiar with. First of all, most people know that poverty is very high in Cleveland, and youth poverty, we're about as high as you can be in the country. A lesser-known statistic is that African-American youth unemployment is 16% versus the overall rate of youth unemployment, which is 8%, yet another demonstration of systemic racism. And unless you've been snoozing the last year, you are aware of the problems with the labor shortage. It's extraordinary and unprecedented. So how do we solve all of these problems in a simple way, a way that's not rocket science or brain surgery? And I do know there's at least one rocket scientist on this call, but it doesn't have to be that complicated. And the timing is right. In addition to all those issues I named, there's some initiatives that I'll be talking about in a minute that are perfectly timed and placed that will allow us to really support this work. In addition to unprecedented labor challenges, we have bold new local leadership. So what is this simple solution that will solve all of our problems, at least those that I've named, of poverty, racism, and talent shortage? It's just connecting young people in high school to jobs. Sounds pretty simple, right? Well, let me tell you why it is a good thing, and then at the end, I'll tell you how we can make it happen. So there are a lot of reasons it's a good thing, but the first one, I'm going to ask for a volunteer, someone, all of you should be thinking about for a moment your very first job, whether it was a summer job or a job at a place like McDonald's, and think about what you learned on that job that you still apply in your life today. And one volunteer, I don't know how one unmutes themselves. Rachel controls everything, right? So maybe raise your hand and Rachel will unmute you and tell us about what from that first job do you still apply in your life today? And I didn't say, okay. I see Debbie from Y.O.U. Take it away.
Plain dealer route and financial management and responsibility.
All right.
And time management.
So three things that you learned, and if you really all take a moment to think about that first job, there's a lot of things you learned that you apply today. I'll give you my example. My first job was at a place called Davis Bakery. I learned customer service that to this day translates into how I collaborate and partner with others. The second thing I learned is I made a vow to learn forever and go to college because I did not want to be in the food service business. And that said, though, I to this day make a great sandwich. And if you ever need a sandwich made, I'm your man. But the most important thing I learned was customer service. So why else is this simple solution so compelling? The return on investment is amazing. There's all the basic things you know you would get out of a job, but I bet you didn't know that a young person who participates in just a 6-week summer job is 12% more likely to graduate, 6% more likely to have better attendance than a comparable group, and a whopping over 30% less likely to be involved in the justice system. That's the power of your first job. Then that goes along with all the other things you get, like financial literacy that Debbie said, and learning to be on time. Another thing to note is teens are eager and effective learners. A lot of time teenagers get a bad rap. As Marianne said, I've dedicated my whole career to them. I'm here to tell you, they are eager to learn. And there's another myth, and I see my friend Bob Papanetti on the call. So we at the Literacy Cooperative talk a lot about how important it is to do a lot of learning before you're 3 or 4. I will say, though, that there is a myth that learning stops at age 5. And the brain science is out there that there is still a lot of brain development, and anyone who has a male child knows this. There's a lot of brain development that happens up until age 25. And so young people still can learn a lot and change, especially in the social emotional realm. Another thing about work, it is, if not the number one, it's the top 2 key determinants of health. If you think about what makes you healthy, is you have housing, you have food, you have good health care. Well, all of those are tied to money, which are tied to a job. So working and having a good career is the number one determinant of health. And that's yet another problem I didn't even mention that is a big deal in Cleveland. Employers on the call, you can, as the commercial I think said in the 70s, you can pay me now or you can pay me later. You can train your future workforce by investing in a high school student now, or you can pay later in really high recruitment and training costs and even more taxes because these young people will need government assistance if they're not self-sufficient. And those employers who are in the hard to find jobs like manufacturing, IT, construction, you can control the message. It's hard to convince a 30-year-old to change, but a 7-year-old is trying to figure out what they want to do. So why is the time right? I mentioned there's a lot of energy and synergy with a litany of beautifully rolling off the tongue names like the Greater Cleveland Career Consortium, the Planning and Career Exploration Program, or PACE, or Workforce Connect. You do not need to remember these names, although Andrea on this call would like you to remember those names. You need to know that right now, more so than any time in our history, so maybe the early 1900s when we invented the Cleveland Foundation and United Way and all other, and the Cleveland Museum of Art, and the orchestra all started. The community is coming together, business, education, government, nonprofit, in a way like never before to provide forum for youth and employers to connect. Also, then you would say, well, how do I do this? So I mentioned a job, and that is the mother of all opportunities, but maybe you can't hire someone. You can be a guest speaker. You could do a job shadowing. You can give a tour of your facility. Again, especially if you're in an industry that no one knows a lot about. And another industry I didn't mention that is a really big industry in Cleveland that people never talk about is nonprofit. No one probably went to school thinking, I'll be in a nonprofit. Yet I think half the people on this call work in that industry. And it's an industry that always needs talent. So you can do all of those things, but you're not alone. Y.O.U. was created to support youth and employers who are trying to connect. And we work to make the program seamless. So if you want to engage in this very simple solution and do it in a really meaningful and impactful way, we're here to help you navigate and can tell you all about how you can connect with us or our sister organization, the Greater Cleveland Career Consortium. So, all right, I'll pause. You never know when you time these things. I probably should have had a staff member time me. I didn't quite do 10 minutes, but happy to answer any questions or continue the dialogue.
Craig, thank you. So you wrapped up by saying that Y.O.U has a lot of services. Can you share some of the key offerings from Y.O.U that helps with the youth development around workforce development?
Sure. Our most famous program is summer jobs and internships. So a really good time to engage high school youth is the summer when they have more time. And we can work with businesses to create 6 to 10 week experiences where young people work on the job. We give them job coaching. We do a lot of pre-work and get them ready. And most interestingly, though, we stick with them for 1 year afterwards. So just because you had a summer job, whether it's Davis Bakery or the Plain Dealer route that Debbie had, we don't want to leave it to chance, because Y.O.U, I didn't mention, this is kind of important. We only serve the urban core, Cleveland, and the inner ring suburbs. We're about helping raising young people out of poverty and addressing racism. And to do that, we're mostly focusing on the inner ring suburbs and the urban core. So the young people we work with are not going to naturally make some of the networks and connections. So we provide the job coaching and the case management so they can do that. We also have a program for young adults who are 18 to 24. Before the pandemic, we did a study with Community Solutions and Towards Employment, and there were 21,000 young adults in Cuyahoga County doing absolutely nothing. I'm guessing there's more now. And they are called Opportunity Youth because they can really, again, they're still learning. There's a great opportunity for them to get on the right trajectory and for them to fill workforce needs. So we have a program for that. And then we have a few other programs that are school-based. And then the program we're really excited about that we've been a part of is one of those acronyms I mentioned. It's called PACE, Planning Career Exploration. So Y.O.U and many, many other partners work with absolutely every Cleveland Municipal School District high school to make sure every high school student has a career plan. So there's lots of youth out there that we can connect you with.
Now, in your opening, you mentioned a statistic about unemployed African-American youth. And how are you defining youth in that statistic? Does that refer to young people who want jobs but cannot get them?
So it's 16 to 24-year-olds who are in the, it's always tricky. Those of you who are in workforce know there's the workforce participation rate. That's not this. This is young people who want to work and are unemployed. And so even with the talent shortage, there's 16% of African-American and Hispanic youth are unemployed relative to a lower unemployment rate for just in general.
And what are some of those major obstacles to finding employment for youth and young adults?
There's several. One biggie is the network. So many of you on the call, again, think back to your first job. And now think, how did you get it? I got my first job because I was sleeping over a friend's house, and he goes, gosh, I need someone to replace me at Davis Bakery so I can get transferred to their new store in Beechwood Place. I walked in, I met the manager. My friend said, here's Craig. They said, do you have a white shirt? I said, yes, I had the job. The young people we work with, that's not going to work. They don't have that network. So that's why it's so important for businesses to step up and do for the young people we serve what my friend Barry did for me. And what if you, again, think about if it wasn't your first job, it's very likely that the people on this call, anyone who come from the middle or upper class, got their job through a network. And when I was young, I used to be radical and say, "Oh, that's terrible about it's what you know, it's not what you know till you know." But now that I've hired hundreds of people, I realize why you do that. You go, "Oh, I know Rachel. I've known her for years. She's going to be good. I'll just hire her." So that's one barrier. Another barrier is there's a lot. We did another study and we interviewed 50 young people who were opportunity youth. And they said the number one barrier that was uncovered is just unaware of what's out there. If you are not exposed, and that's why little things like tours and job shadows and guest speakers really have a big bang for the buck. Because if you don't know what's out there, you're just going to know the three things you see in life, doctor, police, teacher. And, most of the jobs out there are not doctor, police, and teachers. So knowledge and network are, I think, two of the biggest barriers.
What has changed for Y.O.U programming post-COVID? Any lasting adjustments to how you deliver your services?
Great question. And so the answer is yes, but not quite as much as you would think. And I know we always call post-COVID. I bet you everyone on this call knows someone who or himself had COVID in the last week. So I don't know if we're quite post-COVID, but we're not wearing masks anymore. So the biggie is that young adult programming I mentioned. We've adjusted more and been doing more with a hybrid approach. So when we're doing a summer jobs program, you got to be there live. When we're teaching, we have 14 staff in the schools, at schools ranging from John Marshall to Maple Heights. When you're at a school, you got to be at the school. So a lot hasn't changed, but our young adult program, we've had to pivot a little bit and figure out how to be creative in our programming. But most of our other programming is back to what it would have looked like if you visited Y.O.U in 2018.
So a couple questions around funding. So what do your current funding sources look like? And what does the future funding look like for summer jobs programs, youth training, employment programs? I'm looking at that local, state, and federal level.
Yeah. I love that question. So right now, Y.O.U's funding in general is about 70% government and 30% everything else. And most of the 30% everything else is corporate and foundations. The foundation community is very generous. And the corporate and foundation community co-founded Y.O.U with Mayor Voinovich 40 years ago. So we have a good connection to them. Most of the funding for the initiatives I just spoke of is government, which it has two challenges. Some government money, a lot of it, you don't just show up and say, "Hi, I'm Andrea. I'd like some services." Go, "Hi, I'm Andrea. Okay, Andrea, we need your birth certificate. We need to know who your brothers and sisters are. Oh, by the way, your Social Security and picture ID. And also you need to fill out these 5 forms. And then we'll help you." So we are really striving to expand the kind of funding for summer jobs and internships. And there's really 2, again, very simple ways to do this. It's all simple, guys. Nothing's too difficult. One is a business, which is the call to action in my article and the call to action today, say, all right, I will put aside some slots for the young people in Cleveland and the inner ring suburbs. I'll put aside some slots for high school students, and I will reserve these slots. You'd be surprised how talented these young people are. One of my favorite stories is about 5 years ago, we had an engineering intern at a company that will remain nameless, and our intern caught an error that saved them millions of dollars that all their PhD and master's degrees engineers didn't catch. It's really a value to the workforce. It's not charity. You're getting people to do real work for you. So why not pay for it? And you have a talent shortage anyway. So that's one way to expand funding. The other way is to get more of the corporate and individual philanthropic community to give money to organizations like Y.O.U to subsidize really creative projects. I didn't mention this, but some of our summer jobs are like career academies. If you're in 10th and 11th grade, I'm probably not going to teach you about construction or manufacturing by sending you to Swagelok or on a construction site. So we work with folks like Magnet and Greater Cleveland Partnership and others to create these 6-week academies where they get exposed to it. And funding those, it would be great if the philanthropic business and individual donor community stepped up and started funding those. And you can fund what you're interested in. If you're particularly interested in entrepreneurship, you can fund an entrepreneurship academy and so on.
I'd say over the past few years, there's been a bit of a shift in the conversation around post-secondary education and the idea that not every student needs to go to a 4-year college. So kind of curious for your insights on this shift in mindset and the impact that you're seeing on programming and the students.
Yeah. So one thing, if I could channel the spirit of Eric Gordon for a minute, the reality is that, and again, if you think about your own journey, if you have any child age 17 to 30, think about their journey. It is not linear. And what you do to prepare for college, immediate work, the military, apprenticeship is basically the same thing. You need to learn you need to learn to listen, to communicate, to come on time, to be a critical thinker, no matter what. Almost every job has more math than everyone thinks it will have. So you need all those things no matter what. And then even your senior year, you may say, oh, I'm going to try C. Oh, I think I'm going to switch to Cleveland State. Oh, never mind, I'm going to enter the Navy. That's a true story from someone I know well, my son. And that was just his 1 year after graduation. Now he's in the Navy and he's there for a while, but it is not a trajectory. And so the thing you want to start to do is say, hey, everybody, all kids A to Z, we're preparing you for a career and then where you will go. And if you go off to college, great. If you go into workforce, let's make sure you have all the support you need. That is the real addition that the Greater Cleveland Career Consortium and the CMSD program called PACE offer is if you go to college right now in Cleveland, you get a lot of, hopefully you connected with college now, you get a lot of support, you'll get a mentor. If you don't enter college, congratulations, you're on your own. And those people need as much or more assistance. And so these initiatives are leveraging Y.O.U and many other partners so that if you leave high school and enter the workforce, you get as much support as you need. But then you'll go to where you'll go because, again, that's what young adults do.
Are there communities who are doing this really well that you look to learn from and grab some best practices?
So far as we know, we're innovative. And again, this is, if you think of this as Cleveland 1914, not, Cleveland, whatever other years, well, we're ahead of the game. We're inventing, in 1914, I love Cleveland history, so quick aside, Cleveland invented philanthropy the way it's given with private philanthropy. And Cleveland set forth all kinds of great initiatives, the great orchestra. So Cleveland 2022 is really inventing this. So far as we can tell, we're doing this much better than any place else. The only city where there's a hint is Kansas City, but they're about tied with us. So Cleveland can really be the center of this simple solution.
So where do you see opportunities for growth at Y.O.U, and are you positioned to scale up to meet those growth opportunities?
Pam Macer is not on this call, right? Yes, we will scale up to, that's the person who has to do all the work if I say scale up. So yes, we are. In fact, Y.O.U, one thing that is different pre and post pandemic is we have the ability to serve 5,000 to 6,000, and we've been more in the 3,000, 3,500 range. Just in our summer jobs program, we've averaged 1,500 the last 4 years. The previous 4 years, we averaged 3,000. So we're ready to scale up. And so the opportunities really are, if employers and businesses throw themselves at being partners in this really cool PACE initiative, and then that's, I think, the best opportunity. And then we could maybe get to 5,000, 6,000 again, whether they're doing a summer job or whatever they're doing. We are definitely ready for more.
And Craig, how do you reach students to let them know about the job opportunities? And do you have any difficulty with recruiting that you're looking to overcome?
So it depends which age. High school students, we have access and no difficulty recruiting. The second they graduate, like they walk on stage and they're gone. So we do need a lot of help recruiting anyone who's 18 to 24 and not engaged in the workforce. We try very hard to meet them when they're in 11th and 12th grade, get to know them. And then once they're connected with one of our coaches, they'll stay connected with us. But if anyone on this call has a brilliant idea on how to connect with 18 to 24-year-olds not in the workforce, at 12:31, please call me and we will meet and I will take you to lunch and we'll figure it out. That is the group that is really hard to find.
So as you look ahead for the organization, thinking 5+ years out, what is the vision and where are you looking to head with Y.O.U?
So we're really, going back to some of the very first things Marianne said, and what I'm motivated by is really addressing poverty and racism. So I'd love in 5 years, Y.O.U is a very collaborative organization, and we're thinking about the community's outcomes. I'd love in 5 years for us to be part of a community solution where we said, oh my gosh, we're not the poorest city anymore. Oh my gosh, we have executed on something that's so cool, it's starting to make a dent in systemic racism. Oh wow, just as you had asked earlier, Rachel, this initiative is so amazing that people are coming to Cleveland in droves to study what we've done, because Y.O.U is part of a bigger initiative that has started to solve these problems. It's not going to be solved in 5 years. Both of those are going to take a little longer.
So Craig, for those of us on the call, how can we support your work and the work of Y.O.U?
So the best thing to do is to go to one of two websites. Our website has a lot of ways where you can contact us. If you're an employer, there'll be information on how to connect with our employer relations team. If you're trying to recruit students, or if you really have a great idea on 18 to 24-year-olds and want to go to lunch with me and tell me about it, my contact information's on there too. So our website. Also, any minute now, we're gonna, our partners, Greater Cleveland Career Consortium, are gonna launch their website. And that's another great way to connect, because Y.O.U is a big partner in that. In either way, go to one of those two websites. If you just Google youth opportunities, just make sure you're doing the Cleveland one, not the Canada one, because there is a Canada one.
Well, Craig, thank you so much for sharing your work and your passion for this space. And we encourage everyone on the call to reach out and share some additional ideas on how we can continue to engage our youth in the workforce. I'm going to turn it back to Marianne.
Thanks so much, Rachel. Craig, that was truly inspirational. And you've got all these folks on this call ready to walk alongside you on your journey to eradicate poverty and racism in Cleveland. Wouldn't that be a beautiful day?